Corporate marinas are building an empire by trapping you. Today, we are exposing the insane mechanical hacks that exploited Marina Loopholes, the top 10 heavy-duty secrets they tried to outlaw. You pay thousands for your slip, but the second you try to turn a wrench on your own engine, the dockmaster shows up to shut you down. They want to force you to pay their certified technicians $180 an hour for jobs you are perfectly capable of doing yourself. But a few brilliant old-school captains fought back. They found the blind spots in the corporate rulebooks. They used raw, asymmetric engineering to bypass the stranglehold, saving fortunes without breaking a single written law. We are talking about invisible repairs, silent extraction methods, and heavy iron workarounds that leave the yard managers entirely speechless. The modern marine industry wants these tactics permanently erased. Will you surrender your right to wrench, or will you learn the loopholes? The first trap is set in plain English, right there in the slip contract. The contract says no power tools, no sanding, no mechanical work allowed on the docks. That is the tool locker clause. The dockmaster's patrol cart circles like a shark, waiting for the rattle of a socket or the whine of a drill. One slip, and you are slapped with a fine or threatened with eviction. They want you broken, forced to call their house tech for every seized screw or rusted bracket. But the old hands never surrendered. They reached for the weapon that corporate marinas cannot outlaw, the manual impact driver. No batteries, no cord, no noise, just a block of drop-forged steel and the physics of shock. With every hammer blow, the spiral cam inside multiplies your wrist's force by 4, torque that cracks frozen fasteners loose without a whisper. Dockmasters have no answer. "If I can't hear it, it's not a violation," one told me, squinting at a silent knucklebuster. That is asymmetric warfare. Slip past the digital sentries, reclaim your engine room, and make the rulebook work for you. This is how you turn a ban into a loophole, one silent analog revolution at a time. When the dockmaster's clipboard says no impact, no noise, no work, you reach for the oldest weapon in the arsenal, raw leverage. A breaker bar, 3 feet of cold-forged steel, turns a frozen bolt into a paperclip, no electricity required. The math is simple and ruthless. Torque equals force times arm length. Double the bar, double the torque. 4 feet gives you 4 times the grunt your wrist alone can muster. That is a 4-to-1 mechanical advantage, enough to put fear into any corroded shaft collar or rusted prop nut. The marina's rules can't measure silence, and they can't outlaw physics. Every hardware store breaker bar is rated for at least 500 foot-pounds, more than enough to shear a grade 5 fastener before the tool ever fails. But here is the trick: always check the rating stamp and never trust a chrome-plated toy. If you hear a ping, that is the socket snapping, not the bolt. This is the calculus of resistance. Use their own safety margins against them and walk away with every joint intact. They banned sanding on the docks too, claiming dust control, but what they really fear is a captain who will not pay for their $200 per hour paint crew. Here is how you beat them with chemistry, not noise. The secret is a low-odor, gel-based stripper engineered for zero vapor and no airborne debris. You brush it on after hours, thick as frosting, and let it dwell overnight. 8 hours is the magic number, long enough for the catalyst to break the molecular bonds in 2-part polyurethane, but not so long that it dries out. In the morning, you come back with a 6-inch putty knife and a roll of contractor bags. The old finish peels up in wide, rubbery sheets. No dust, no evidence, no violation. Neutralize the surface with a water-damp rag, bag the waste, and you are done before the dockmaster's first round. The numbers do not lie. A $45 jug covers an entire 30-foot boat, saving you $1,100 in labor and haul out. That is not just cost-cutting, that is tactical sabotage, buried in the fine print. The marina never sees it coming. Engine extraction is where the marina's trap turns from nuisance to outright extortion. Their contract reads like a minefield: one drop of oil, one clang of a hoist, and you are on the hook for every penny of spill cleanup. The travel lift sits behind a velvet rope, $500 an hour, guarded by a clipboard and a liability waiver. But the old shipwrights did not wait for permission. They built a boom winch rig you can set up solo right under the dockmaster's nose and pull 1,000 pounds of Detroit iron out of the bilge without a single drop hitting the water. The secret is mechanical advantage, 4-to-1 block and tackle math, the kind that turns a 1,200-pound lump of cast iron into a manageable 300-pound pull. Start with a steel gin pole rated 2 tons. Never trust aluminum for this job. Chain falls, double sheave blocks, and a length of 5/8-inch double braid polyester line rated at 4,000 pounds. Run the line through both blocks, anchor your pole to a cleat or the dock piling, and hook into the engine lift points. The rig diagram looks like something out of a sabotage manual. Every angle, every load path calculated to keep the Marina's insurance clause at bay. Check your gear, every shackle stamped with its WLL, every sling inspected for fraying. The 5-to-1 safety factor is not just paranoia, it is survival. One snapped cable and you are not just out an engine, you are out a boat. But if you have done the math, you haul that block of iron straight up, slow and silent. No splashes, no alarms. The dockmaster cannot find what he cannot see. That is how you reclaim your engine room, by turning their own liability clause into a schematic for resistance. When the Marina's crane is locked behind a paywall and the house techs are counting billable hours, the portable hoist becomes your covert exfiltration rig. Forget the mast and boom. This is how you pull an engine when the only thing above you is a night sky and a silent dock. The foldable engine hoist is the insurgent's answer. 2 tons of brute steel rated for 10 times the load of a typical inboard, yet it collapses to less than 3 feet wide. You wheel it in after dark, legs tucked, frame camouflaged by tarps and shadows. No alarms, no witnesses, just the quiet hiss of hydraulic oil and the click of a locking pin. Here is the checklist. Every shackle stamped with its working load limit. Every chain sling rated for twice the engine's weight. Never trust a sticker. Run your hand over the welds, check for hairline cracks, inspect the ram for leaks. The hoist's base must plant flush on the dock or trailer pad. No wobbles, no tilt, not even a whisper of instability. Chain up to the lifting eyes, tension slowly, and watch the engine rise, vertical, controlled, no swinging, no drama. The whole chassis folds out in minutes, but the real trick is the footprint. With legs collapsed, the hoist fits behind a pickup seat or under a tarp, invisible by dawn. No power tools, no noise, no trace. When the clipboard patrol comes by at sunrise, all they see is a clean slip and a captain who still owns his engine. That is the discipline of the night pull. Industrial strength and zero footprint, with plausible deniability baked into every joint. They wrote the ban in black and white. No draining, no disposal, no hazardous fluids handled in the slip. All work by licensed technicians only. Tenant assumes full liability for any spill. Violation voids insurance. That is the insurance death sentence. 1 drop of oil in the water and your claim is dead on arrival. The Marina's clipboard army wants you boxed in, forced to pay their $180 an hour techs to suck out every quart of gear oil, coolant, or hydraulic fluid. But there is a hack that slips right through their legal crosshairs: the closed-loop vacuum extractor. This is not some plastic toy from the auto parts aisle. We are talking about a sealed, negative pressure tank, 10-gallon capacity, rated for 28 inches of mercury. You thread a 1/4-inch hose down the dipstick tube, pump up the vacuum, and let physics do the dirty work. The oil never sees daylight. Vapors are captured, not vented. The system is as tight as a submarine bulkhead. No drips, no trace, no evidence for the dockmaster to find. It is the same principle the shipping giants use to keep sulfur out of the air: closed-loop scrubbers with 99% recovery and 0 discharge. This is a closed-loop solution. Marine surveyors have seen the aftermath, claims denied with a single line: unauthorized fluid work by owner, spill risk, coverage void. But when you show them a logbook entry and a receipt for a C1D1 compliant extractor, their hands are tied. You have outflanked the system. The marina's rules cannot touch you, the insurer cannot deny you, and your engine lives to fight another day. That is not just maintenance, it is mechanical sovereignty sealed tight against bureaucratic sabotage. The next clause is pure entrapment. No fiberglass, no resins, no chemical work outside approved enclosures. They want every hull repair funneled through their house shop, billed at $250 an hour for a junior tech in a Tyvek suit. The justification is volatile organic compounds, VOCs. One whiff of solvent and the dockmaster's clipboard comes out. But the loophole is buried in the numbers. Most marinas set their VOC threshold at 50 grams per liter, parroting state air quality regulations. That is where the new chemistry comes in. The old polyester resins stank like a refinery and set off alarms halfway down the dock. But a modern two-part low-VOC epoxy, like West System 105 and 207, or System 3, Silvertip, barely registers. Mix ratio is 2:1 by volume, hardener to resin, with a working time of 30 minutes and a full cure profile in 24 hours at 70 degrees. The secret is in the molecular structure. No styrene, no amines off-gassing, just a faint almond scent that disappears before the dockmaster makes his rounds. Here is how you run the op. File a tent permit, marinas love paperwork, and set up a pop-up enclosure after hours. Lay down a poly drop cloth, seal the seams, and keep the tent zipped. The low VOC rating is printed right on the can. If the patrol asks, show them the material safety datasheet. Application is silent, no sanders, no grinders, just a plastic spreader and a foam roller. Wet out your glass, squeegee the layup, and walk away. By the time the sun comes up, the patch is cured, the odor is gone, and the evidence is invisible. If you ever get challenged, the clause says no hazardous vapors, not no repair. That is legal cover, signed and sealed. They cannot ban chemistry they cannot detect. That is how you win composite warfare, with stealth, paperwork, and a can of science the house techs cannot even pronounce. You want to see real subversion? Forget the visible hacks. This is where you turn the marina's own safety code into your camouflage. They will let you haul an engine, maybe patch a hull, but they will never let you shore up a boat on the hard unless you pay their certified crew. Why? Because a bad shore job is a lawsuit waiting to happen. The rulebook says every square inch of hull support must handle 500 pounds per square foot, minimum. Miss that number and you are out. Insurance void, slip revoked, maybe a cracked hull if you are lucky. But here is how you disappear into the math. You measure the weight. Say, a 12,000-pound trawler, split across 4 shoring pads. That is 3,000 pounds per pad. Divide by the 500 pounds per square foot requirement, and you need at least 6 square feet of bearing area per pad. Grab a tape measure, cut your plywood, and stack the layers. You want redundancy? Use 2 sheets, stagger seams, no knots facing the hull. Mark every pad with a Sharpie, date, time, initials. Snap a photo with a timestamp, proof for any clipboard that tries to call your bluff. That is your legal shield. If the dockmaster asks, you hand him the numbers and the photo. No argument, no wiggle room. The law is on your side and the insurance clause is satisfied. This is structural secrecy, no telltale gaps, no crushed plywood, no tilt. You build it right, you walk away invisible. The marina's liability clause becomes your alibi. The only thing they see is a boat sitting pretty, every load path calculated, every pad engineered for silent resistance. That is how you hold the line, with math, evidence, and the discipline of a shipwright who refuses to let a corporate yard own his keel. Every slip contract in a corporate marina is a snare, but the cleverest trap is the one you do not see until your keel hits mud. The clause reads, no haul-outs without prior approval, all bottom work by certified yard personnel. Translation, pay their ransom or let the weeds claim your hull. But there is an old-school workaround, older than the marina itself, Tidal careening. You do not need a travel lift or a yard crew. You need a tide chart, a patch of soft mud, and a willingness to read lunar math like a saboteur reads blueprints. The protocol starts with reconnaissance. Study the local tide tables, official sources, not App Store junk. You are hunting for a spring tide, the highest and lowest water of the month when the moon and sun pull together. In places like Falmouth Harbor or the Chesapeake, that can mean a tidal swing of up to 16 feet. On the right day, you get a 6-hour window, enough to ground a 35-foot sloop, expose the whole bottom, and finish your work before the water returns. The Marina fine print cannot outlaw gravity or the moon. The checklist is gospel. First, confirm your berth dries out on a soft bottom, mud or sand, never rock. Inspect with a lead line at low water. Next, notify the harbor master. Never skip this step. Some jurisdictions, like Cornwall or certain Chesapeake slips, require a 48-hour heads up. If you are in a corporate marina that bans careening outright, walk away. No hack is worth a cracked hull or a $10,000 fine. With permission in hand, time your arrival for 2 hours before low water. Secure bow and stern lines to pilings or anchors. Your boat must settle upright, not heel over. Drop fenders, rig a ladder, and keep a vacuum tarp ready for any scrapings. The law is clear: no paint chips or toxic wash-off in the mud. Use only ablative or low-VOC paints approved by the local authority. When the tide ebbs, gravity does the heavy lifting. The hull settles, the clock starts, and you have up to 6 hours, nature's free haul-out sanctioned by centuries of maritime law and the indifference of the moon. This is legal rebellion, written in tide tables and executed with military precision. No travel lift, no yard fee, no digital record, just you, your boat, and the oldest force multiplier on Earth. The Marina cannot invoice the moon. That is command. That is sovereignty. And that is how you turn a bureaucratic chokehold into a loophole wide enough to sail through. Underwater hull cleaning is where the Marina's racket hits peak absurdity. The slip contract says you can't scrape, can't sand, and you can't even brush a barnacle unless you pay for a full haul-out, a $2,000 minimum every time you want to reclaim a knot of speed or avoid a diver's fine. But the insurgents' answer does not involve a travel lift or a yard invoice. It involves a scuba tank, a pneumatic scrubber, and the kind of airflow math that would make a corporate dockmaster sweat through his polo shirt. The rig is pure resistance engineering, a diver's air tank plumbed to a rotary brush head rated for 4 cubic feet per minute at 90 pounds per square inch. That's the sweet spot, enough torque to blast away 6 months of slime and barnacle cement, but not so much that you fog the water or trip a marina alarm. 40 minutes on a standard 80 cubic foot tank gives you a full hull pass on anything under 40 feet. You're running silent, no power cord, no generator, just compressed air and the physics of pressure differentials. The only sound is the hiss of the regulator and the faint grind of bristles chewing through biofouling. Compare that to the yard's bill. $2,100 for a haul, $350 for the diver, $200 for disposal, and another $500 if they spot a single flake of copper paint in the water. Your DIY setup costs less than $400 out the door: tank, brush, hose, and a set of O-rings for backup. The savings compound every season. If the patrol cart rolls by, all they see is a diver doing a nodes and inspection, perfectly legal by the book. No discharge, no sanding, no chemical trace. If you're smart, you log your tank fills and keep a receipt for every brush head, proof of compliance if anyone asks. Failure modes. If you overdraw the tank, you lose pressure before you lose time. A slow fade, not a catastrophic stop. Worst case, you surface with half a hull left, swap tanks, and finish the job before the tide shifts. The scrubber head is field serviceable. Swap brushes in seconds, grease the bearings, and you're back in the fight. The Marina's rules are built for digital surveillance and paperwork. This hack is analog, invisible, and unstoppable. That's how you finish the job clean and clear, with the Marina's own rulebook as your alibi and a hull that's faster, sharper, and legally untouchable. They can digitize the docks, raise the rents, and outlaw every wrench. But as long as you command your own tools, they will never own your vessel. In 2026, mechanical sovereignty isn't nostalgia, it's resistance. Every silent hack is an act of command. The Marina's empire depends on your surrender. Defy it, because a captain who can't fix his ship is already adrift. Drop your war stories in the comments below.